Only 45% of the city identify as white British.
Do you believe non-white people
makes the point, doesn't it?
Can be British?
Vaush, I don't care what you think is racist. I don't care, Vaush. But what I'm saying is that most people...
Do you think non-white people can be British?
Most people, Vaush, in the United Kingdom do not identify as British. In London, sorry, not in the United Kingdom. Sorry. Do not identify as British. Therefore, your opinion on my opinion on who is and is not British is not relevant because we're just asking people how they identify. They don't think they are, and so that's the end of that conversation.
Based on what? Nationality or ethnicity?
Vaush, based on their own self-identification, and that's enough for me.
In nationality or ethnicity?
Vaush,
why can't you just answer?
My turn. Vaush, it's my turn to talk, isn't it?
So, all
right. Based on self-identification.
Carl, it's okay. You'll get a chance again. What you're advocating for is an ethnostate. And I can prove that. I have the data right here. We can actually look at it on my stream. So the number of Londoners as of the 2011 census showed that 63.3% of London's population was born in England. They are English citizens. So the majority of people in England are English. You said a minority, as in less than 50%, are white British, which suggests that you aren't counting non-white English people as part of what constitutes an English identity in the country. And this is a problem we ran into the last time we talked. You're advocating for an ethnostate. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. You're using people's ethnic identity as a descriptive to determine whether or not they are legitimately English. Now, nationality, I get, if you weren't born in England, that's totally fine to say that person's not English. I think that's valid. Maybe if they lived there like 60 years or something, but that's getting in the weeds. You're using ethnicity. And I'm going to be honest, as a liberal, as someone who believes in the principles of liberalism, I'm very much big on that classical liberalism. I'm not a big fan of ethnostates, Carl. And it's a little weird to me that you would deliberately sidestep clarifying whether you mean ethnicity or nationality because you're too cowardly to acknowledge the fact that it is in fact ethnicity that you are using as the determining factor in whether or not you consider a person English. You'll note, if you want to go over the census, which I have in front of me, I can show it to my stream too, many people in this census who recorded their ethnic identities fit into a category of either Asian or Asian British. Asian or Asian British, black or black British. The ethnicity section doesn't distinguish between national identity because that's not what it's trying to do. It's their ethnicity. And I would say, by the way, what's my ethnicity? I am Irish and Polish for the most part. And if you asked me what I am, I would say I am an American. Because even though my ethnic identity does not come from America, my personal identity, my nationality, is American, as are many of the English people you are saying are not legitimately a part of England, are not part of the English identity. I don't really have any, if you want to argue in favor of an ethnostate, you're fine. I have sources on those too. But is that really an argument you want to be on the table making?
Thanks so much.
Vaush, these people don't identify as English.
Ethnically.
Ethnically, they don't identify as English.
I don't identify as American ethnically, but I am still American.
Whether you identify as or not,
do you know what an ethnicity is? This is an ethnostate. Yes. You're saying a national identity is determined by ethnicity.
Define ethnicity for me, Vaush.
Just because I just want to be sure that Carl gets that roughly 2 minutes or so. And,
no, I'm interested. I'd like to do a bit of back and forth. What do you think ethnicity is defined as, Vaush?
Ethnicity, an ethnicity, not one's ethnic identity, is defined by...
Group?
I'm sorry?
What's an ethnic group?
An ethnic group are people to adhere to an ethnicity, and an ethnicity is determined by a people with a collective culture, nationality, language, heritage. There are a lot of things that could determine one's ethnicity.
Yeah, but that's not race, is it?
No. I'm not talking about race. I'm talking about ethnicity. I never said race.
Neither am I. These people who are in London, the majority of people in London view themselves as being an ethnicity that does not originate in the British Isles.
Yes. And you are making ethnicity the determining characteristic as to whether or not they are English.
No, they don't call themselves English.
Yes,
They
ethnically.
are making that.
No, ethnically.
They
No.
are saying they ethnically do not identify as English. If they ethnically identified as English, I wouldn't care where they came from. If they came, like, this is literally what my grandfather did. Right? He came over here to become English, but they have not come here to become English. I have a problem with that. Why
Wait,
don't
you do know ethnicity doesn't mean the culture you subscribe to, right? Here in America, so again, I mean, I don't know how much time you spent.
Part of it is the culture and the
language
and the history,
but it's not determinant. So you can come here. You can come here to America. Of course it can be. And there are weebs who are American who are born in America. Carl, can you stop acting like a child for a moment and listen to the argument that you're going to attempt to rebuke? If you come over here to America, you'll find that there are people who are very much American, who have been here for generations, that are ethnicities all over the place. What's your ethnic identity? I'm Korean. I'm Indian. I'm Irish. I'm Russian. You get this all over the place. People don't really say American as an ethnicity because of the unique socio-political history of our country. But if you ask these people, nonetheless, if they're an American, they'll say yes. And culturally, these people are all the same. They don't. If you're ethnically Korean because your great-great-grandmother came over here in 1914, that doesn't mean when you say you're ethnically Korean that you still subscribe to the cultural values of the Korean people. It doesn't work that way. You are using ethnicity to determine whether or not a person is English as a culture or as an identity. We are speaking only of ethnicity.
Yes, 100%. That's how it's determined.
Okay, then you are by definition advocating for an ethnostate. And what's unique is, I think in this case, it's not because you're racist. It's because you're too stupid to know the definition of ethnicity. You think it means what culture are you a part of? And I don't know if I have the time and energy to explain to you.
Literally, you read out the words. It can be culture.
Of course, anything can. Can you find me census data on the identified culture of different ethnic groups? Culture, not their ethnicity or their nationality.
They identify as not being English. I'm not saying it's a racial identification. For some of them, it might be racial, but that's not my criteria. But for them, you in America, like you say, it's a unique position you're in. That's why you have hyphenated Americans. They are not just Koreans, they're Korean Americans.
Asian or Asian British. Asian or Asian African. It's here in the census. You have the same thing. Do you know why?
Shut up. Let's give.
Can you mute him so I can have my time to talk, please? You have a particular unique circumstance in the United States. We do not have that in Europe. That is not the same thing here.
One sec. So sorry, Carl.
On what
No, this is improving his arguments.
The connection was just fading for a little bit. So I'd say those last two sentences, Carl, if you could say those again.
One more time, Carl.
Sorry about that.
Can we mute Vaush while I'm talking? Is that okay?
Vaush, can you do me a favor and
I'm very calm. I'll chill out. Sorry.
The people who have come here simply do not identify as English. I don't want England's capital city to be a non-English city. I don't want her second city to be a non-English city. These are arguments from ethnicity that is correct. I'm not saying they can't become English. I'm not saying they shouldn't be encouraged to become English. They should be encouraged to become English. Because like we said, this is not about race. This is about self-identification, about belief, how you feel about yourself. And we are not, there are lots of immigrants who come over with the intention of becoming a part of the historical continuum that is Britain or England or whatever way you want to describe it. But there are also lots of people here who have absolutely no intention. And I think that is unacceptable. I think that's a form of exploitation of the native population. I mean, at the end of the day, the English don't have anywhere else to go, but these people do if things all go wrong. So I think we do have to be cognizant of that.
Right. Okay. So first of all, you're lying. American ethnicities are often hyphenated, African American or Korean American. We do that. And you'll find here, and I'm showing it on my stream. So with here, the 2011 census, we can see the reason why we use terms like Asian or Asian British being put in the same box, or Black and Black British being put in the same box, is because the people who took the or who made the census wanted to make it perfectly clear, and they gave the option to those who wrote into the census that whether you identify as, say, for example, Pakistani ethnically or or British Pakistani, whether you intend on adhering to the culture of your home country or intend on integrating into the culture of England, those are grouped into the same category because ethnicity is not a determining factor in one's cultural identity, which is why there are Korean Americans here in America who just act like regular fucking Americans, except they I don't know, they seem to be more fashionable in my personal experience. And there are Indian Americans who just act like Americans. And if you go over to England, and I will say this confidently, despite having never been to England, you will find there are plenty of people who, over the past 4 generations, have come from other countries and ascribe to other identities ethnically, nonetheless act British. And the reason for that, and the reason I'm capable of recognizing that, is because I don't believe in ethnostates. What Carl just did, even though, again, he doesn't know what ethnicity means, that's fine, I guess. I'm not here to educate him.
I defined it for
Whoa. That's fine if he doesn't understand. But what he's advocating for, either through malice or ignorance, is an ethnostate. He even made the classic argument at the end there. English people have nowhere else to go, but they can come here. He made the Asia for Asian people, Africa for Black people, Western country for everyone. He made the classic white nationalist argument there. But again, I doubt he understands the nuances of the arguments he would have to make to win that. So I'm going to back off him on there. I don't believe in ethnostates, Carl. I believe in liberalism. You know, I believe that people should be able to live in the countries they want, and that I don't think their ethnic identities going decades or even centuries back should determine whether or not you consider them legitimately English. I think that's, frankly, quite immoral. If that cinches up the immigration thing, because I didn't hear any
hang on. Don't pretend.
Whoa, I didn't finish. I'm just advocating for another point.
You were about to change the subject.
No. I'm putting forward the offer, Carl. Do you want to stick on this?
Well, have you finished talking or not?
Do you want to stick on this point?
Yes, I do want
to. Okay. Well, far be it from me to step past you, partner.
Have you finished talking? Have you finished talking?
Yeah. Let me think of a closing argument.
Then be quiet.
Then be quiet. Yeah,
I think that.
Whoa, Carl!
If I remember right, I want to try to remember.
Just shush.
If I remember, it was at Vaush. I think you might have gotten the ball rolling on this topic, if I remember right. And what we could do is, if you have any final last pithy points to add on to that, Vaush, we can give you that chance, and then otherwise we'll go over to Carl after that.
Yeah, I think I want a last sentence or two, and then Carl can say whatever the hell he wants, and then we can move to another topic if you'd like. But yeah, final point. Again, he doesn't know what ethnicity means. That's fine. I'm not an ethnostater. And I think it's fitting then that Carl is so dishonest and disingenuous when he talks about the economic output or the consequences of immigration. It's not because he actually cares about the poor. His economic positions make that perfectly clear. It's because he's looking for a sort of back alley economic justification for marginalizing the people he sees as immigrants into his country. It's a very common tactic. People have been doing it for hundreds of years, and people keep falling for it too. So, I mean, Godspeed to him if it keeps working, right?